Well, it's not actually like the quiet part that right wingers don't really speak about. They're all for uh, keeping trans people out of society. I'm not sure why he thinks that Trump is saying the quiet part out loud.
Show regularly. You've heard me say repeatedly that Republicans are more interested in cooking up so-called culture wars or bigoted attacks on minorities than actually governing in any meaningful sense. Most will deny it, of course, but then most aren't Donald Trump. While stumping on Saturday in North Carolina, the twice indicted, twice impeached ex-president said this.
I will keep men out of women's sports, okay? Who would even think that you could allow this? Who would say that this is okay? These people are sick. They're deranged. One day.
Yeah, this is something right wingers are pretty vocal about, keeping trans people out of sports, out of schools, out of, well, basically any facet of society. I want them removed from being able to work, being able to, uh, dress the way they want, be in various public places. So this isn't really the quiet part. And it's funny how right wingers go from, oh, these people just have a mental illness and they need help, to these people are, deranged and we should, you know, remove them from society.
Day one, I will immediately sign a new executive order to cut federal funding for any school pushing critical race theory, transgender insanity, and other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content on our children.
Yeah, critical race theory, what, talking about history and systemic social issues? How is that inappropriate for kids to learn about? They'll learn about it one way or the other, and having a place where they can be properly educated about it is not evil. Nor is it evil to talk about gender ideas or uh, sexual orientations, as that is talked about all the time. Anytime somebody says, hey, I'm married to this person, and they're talking about their gender orientation and sexual identity. I've had many teachers who told me they were a Miss or a Miss or a Miss or a Mrs. or Mister, and that is sexual identifications right there, and nobody freaked out.
Depressing and not exactly new. But after the crowd went wild in response, Trump said something that's really, really important and revealing.
It's amazing how strongly people feel about that. You see, I'm talking about cutting taxes. People go like that. Talk about transgender. Everyone goes crazy. Who would have thought 5 years ago you didn't know what the hell it was?
Remarkable. A true statement from Donald Trump. Even
Let me be the quiet part that he's talking about. Yeah, 5, 6, 7 years ago, nobody cared about trans people. And on the right, they only started caring when they wanted more acceptance in society, and this is how the right is. The more a marginalized group wants acceptance, the more they push back and consider these people evil for wanting rights. It happened during the civil rights era, when black people wanted rights. It happened during the suffrage era, when women wanted to vote.
Even the P.T. Barnum of our time can't believe how quickly this concocted culture war over trans rights has captivated the GOP base and how easy it is to now manipulate them with it. He literally spells out the gross power it gives him over those Republican voters because they don't want policies, they want prejudice. He gets their devotion and they get not better government, but permission to express and even celebrate their own bigotry. And on Saturday, he told them to their faces. That's how it works. There is sadly a long history behind Trump's cynical bigotry. He's channeling George Wallace, the notorious anti-civil rights governor and failed presidential candidate. As one biographer tells it, Wallace even told an uncomfortable supporter after a speech why he started openly courting racists.
When Wallace turned to the politics of race, one of his supporters, who was horrified, said, "George, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this?" And Wallace, sadly, he thought, said, "I tried to talk about good roads and good schools and all these things that have been part of my career, and nobody listened. And then I began talking about and they stomped the floor.
That's sad that he's willing to stoop so low because nobody listened about the good things that he wanted to do. All he had to do was keep talking about that, and he would get people to listen. But no, he wanted to become a racist so that he could get attention, and that's pretty disgusting.
Trump also draws on the cynical calculations of the late Republican political operative Lee Atwater, whose Southern strategy used subtler, coded language to mobilize white voters. As Atwater privately told an interviewer in 1981, in audio later obtained by The Nation,
by 1968, you can't say that hurts your backfire, so you say stuff like force busing, states' rights, and all that stuff. And you get so abstract now, you're talking about cutting taxes, and all of these things you're talking about are totally economic things, and the byproduct of them is blacks get hurt worse than whites.
That is true. Right-wingers nowadays truly love their dog whistles because they do know there is a backlash if they just outright started calling, black people animals, the N-word, and stuff like that. So yeah, they do go to their dog whistles, and yeah, white people do get hurt by the policies that the Republican politicians push, but the politicians know that, black people are going to get hurt worse, so they're fine with the collateral damage that happens to white people.
today we have critical race theory, parental rights, and of course, grooming. Those last two have been rallying points for anti-trans politics. But now Trump is going further than Atwater by dispensing with much of the coded language. Cutting taxes is too wonky. Loudly demonize transgender people by name is so much more direct. And he's going further than Atwater and Wallace ever did by openly telling his supporters to their faces how he is exploiting their prejudices for personal gain. Atwater and Wallace said this stuff in private. Trump is saying it, the quiet part, out loud, in public, in real time to his supporters. And he doesn't even believe this stuff or give a damn about trans issues. Or else he wouldn't have blasted North Carolina's Republican restrictions on trans people using public bathrooms on the campaign trail back in 2016. Yeah, really. Remember this?
You leave it the way it is. There have been very few complaints the way it is. People go, they use the bathroom that they feel is appropriate. There has been so little trouble.
Yeah, politicians are big time, well, most politicians are big time flip-floppers because all they're doing is pandering to the largest audience that they can in effort to get the most votes.
So little trouble. What's changed since then? Trump's base.
About transgender, everyone goes crazy.
Yeah, because it was never about economic anxiety or being left behind or globalization. It was never about policy. It was about being given public permission to hate.
Yep, and during Trump's administration, right-wingers had a big okay to be as racist and bigoted as much as they wanted to, because Trump was, and that's why there's been an increase in right-wing extremism.